Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today is a pretty rainy and cold day outside, definitely not a riding weather, which is a perfect day for me to work on my bike. As you have already guessed it from the title of this video, today I'm going to be installing new handlebars by Factory 47. So after doing some research, I have settled on Factory 47 12-inch bars for a couple different reasons. So mainly what I was looking for is I wanted something that's plug and play. I did not want to get a new clutch cable, did not want to get a new brake hose extension, I did not want to get any other electrical cable extensions and so on and so forth. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I just did not really want to deal with that. I just wanted to get it disassembled, pull the wires out, put the wires back into the new bars, and that's basically it, which is where Factory 47 12-inch bars seem to fit the bill. I'm also pretty short, so I did not want to go anything taller than the 12. I had 12-inch bars on my previous bike, and that worked out very well. I just wanted something that'll give me a little extra rise, just around 2 inches, which again, what I like about Factory 47s is that they kind of have the pointy top and they swoop down. So realistically, I actually think it's only going to be about an inch or maybe slightly over an inch of the way my hands will sit on the bars versus the stock ones. Alright, so without wasting too much time, let's quickly take a look at the bars and get them installed on the bike. Alright guys, here are the bars. They're still wrapped in the plastic. I'll remove it in a little bit, but basically at least you get an idea. I like the fact that they're fat bars and they taper down in areas where it needs to be tapered for the ease of installation. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the stock bars off and get these on. First things first, before you start the disassembly, go ahead and get your left side bag removed, as well as the side panel. There is a fuse, 50 amp fuse, right around here. You should be able to see it. It's red. Will be right in your face as soon as you take the panel off. Get that removed before you start unplugging any wires, just to save yourself some headache later. Make sure there's no cell codes and things like that once you start reassembling and powering things up. Now, so I don't keep stopping and starting the video to talk about little things. Let's quickly go over some of the minor details and I'll get to removing the bar. But basically the point here is to remove this, the console. It's super simple. There are 2 bolts, one on each side. There are, I believe, 3 plugs on the back of this. Before we get to that, we got to remove this little clip here. There's just one little pin that needs to be moved up, and this thing comes out completely. I'll move the ignition switch to the left. It'll make it easier for you to remove the gauges. Then once we get there, we have to remove the brake and the clutch. Again, super simple, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. These will come off. I got a couple of bags ready to put them in and kind of sort of hang them off the turn signals to make my life a little easier. And then we can get to the clamp. 4 bolts. I believe it's, for me, because I have heated grips, I think it's 4 plugs instead of typical 3. And again, as if I find anything strange that's not super straightforward, I'll stop and I'll explain it. But that's basically what I will be doing. All right, let's get it done. Alright guys, as I mentioned to you before, basically to get this thing loose, there's 2 bolts, one on this side, one on this side. And on the back there's 3 plugs. There's a main plug, it has 2 clips on the side, super simple. Just get a small, tiny screwdriver, pry them out, pull this out. and there's 2 more plugs here. The only difference is this one is facing up, so it's super simple to take off. You just squeeze it and pull it out. This one, because you can't really get your finger under it, just get like a thicker screwdriver to kind of push it under it, and it pulls right out. All right, let's keep going. Alright guys, here we go. The stock bars are off, and here they are side by side right next to factory 47. Alright, the only thing I notice off the bat is that the stock bars are have bigger sweep towards the rider, right? So that's the only thing I can tell just by quickly looking at it. And so yeah, so this is a little bit better angle here, so you get the idea. Probably looking at about 2 inches sweep further back on the stock bars. But as far as the height, just the points themselves are taller, and the bars themselves, you may be looking at 1 inch, probably even less. So all right, let's go ahead and start disassembling the switches and pulling the wires out. So the switches are off. Couple of quick notes to take them off. Just be careful. There's a little tab here that keeps it in place. Just take a tiny screwdriver, pry it under it. It'll pop right out. Be careful, obviously, with these super thin ribbon cables. And to get these out is, again, pretty simple. Get a tiny screwdriver, push on the little pins that hold them in place, and pop it right out. This one is very similar, slightly different in the sense that the clip is not as visible. That's why I had to get a flashlight, but it's basically, it's right there. You kind of have to pry it slightly from under, and it'll pop right out again. Be careful with all the switches, the ribbon cable. Take your time, do it slow. It'll come right off. Cables are out. They were a little tight, but obviously very doable since I did them. The right side has 2 cables with actually 4 plugs in it, and the left side has 3 cables with 3 plugs in it. So just take a note of that. I like to mark my cables, even though, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. All right, so let's go ahead and get the new bars and start running the cables back. All right, guys, so here's the plan. This is what I'm using to pull the wires. I'm using this pull chain. It's nice and flexible and pretty strong. I'm gonna pull both wires at the same time. That's why I have one run here, one here, and they both come out right here. Okay. Obviously your typical electric tape. And what I'm also going to use, just to help give myself a little extra hand, is the this cable pulling lubricant. Let's see how this works. I'm not going to put tons of it on, but I'm just going to put a little bit on the cables to help it, you know, in the bends and things like that. So let's see how that works out. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Guys, all the wiring, as you can see, is done. The switches are back on. Do pay attention when before you take them off from the old bar. Make sure you note which way the wire actually runs, because there are some grooves where it has to go back in precisely. Otherwise, the housing will not close properly. All right. I did not take off the plastic plate that mounts the all the three wires. There's plenty of spacing there, so I didn't do anything with that. I did not remove the little pin that sits on the bottom perch because it sort of as of right now, you know, I'll ride a bike obviously, and I'll see if I need to move the bars towards me a little bit. But as of right now, the way I sat on the bike, it seems to be sitting properly, so I did not have to punch out that little pin that holds the bar in place and keeps it from moving back or forward too far. All right, so that's good to go. All the wiring is in, so I'm gonna go clean everything up, put the clutch and the brake back on, get this thing adjusted, and show you what it looks like with me on the bike. couple of quick notes. Just as I thought I was finished and I started putting on the cluster back on, it wasn't seating properly. So I wound up taking off that plastic brace that holds 3 wires in place, and it still wasn't working. So I wound up basically clipping 2 zip ties, one on this side, one on this side, one that holds the brake cable, one that holds the clutch cable. I should say hose and the cable. And I wound up rerouting the clutch to this side as well as the brake, just because for some reason this area right here, hopefully you can see it, and here as well, it wasn't seating properly. So this thing kind of just kept sitting raised up, and I couldn't put the bolt in. Obviously, just it wasn't right. So that had to be done. Yeah, and that's basically it. So those are the 2 pointers that I will make suggestion on. Whether it's a 12-inch bars, and it seems like definitely on the 14s, just remove that plastic brace that I told you about. This is basically what this is. That's where the 3 cables sit in place. Just, 2 zip ties, and yeah, and it's gone. Not a big deal. Extra couple of minutes, and that's really it. All right, guys. So yeah, so here it is. As I said, these bars are don't come back to me as much as the stock bars. Stock bars pretty much kind of set right here. So when I was writing, this is where my hands were. They're slightly further up. Again, not a big deal. I still have a bend in my arm. My shoulders nice and relaxed. I'll write like this for a little bit just to see if I need to bring the bars back to me. This is as far as that will go because of that pin that I mentioned earlier that holds the bars in place so that they don't come back too far back. But that's the case, and I don't like it. But again, I get plenty of range of motion. I don't need to do lock to lock. At least I haven't found a reason for it yet. But if I do find that my range of motion is slightly, restricted, then I will just, take the cluster off really quickly, undo the 4 bolts, knock out the pin, and move the bars to me maybe another inch. But again, I feel this is pretty good. They are slightly wider than the stock bars as well. So stock bars probably about I would say about an inch and a half narrower. So my hands were kind of like here. Now they're slightly wider. Now I don't have to hold it on the edges. Obviously, I can come a little closer. But I feel pretty relaxed. They are quite comfortable. And like I said, they're not much more different than the stock. So obviously, I'm not sitting like big apes that would be uncomfortable for me. My shoulders are still pretty level. Like actually, my hands are kind of sitting down a little bit. I honestly could have gone even another inch or 2. But this is great. This is kind of what I was going for, and it feels pretty comfortable. Let's see how they feel on the road. Alright guys, so all in all, the install wasn't too terrible. It's not complicated, it's just a little time consuming. Running wires wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Definitely the lubricant helped quite a bit. So if you have one, you can always grab one off of Amazon for a few bucks. It's pretty cheap, and like I said, it makes running the wires a little bit easier. Also, as I mentioned before, I just removed that piece of plastic that holds the wires in place under the cluster. Rerun your clutch and your brake hose to the outside of the cluster. Again, just it gives a little bit extra space, for the cluster to fit in properly. And that's about it. All in all, it took me probably around 3 hours or so. So it's not, again, like I said, it's not that because it's complicated, just I had to go back and forth a couple of things for different reasons for trial and error to make it fit properly. So if you want to save a few $100s and don't have your dealer install this, and learn something new about your motorcycle, that's obviously one way of doing it. I always feel pretty rewarding when I get things done myself and save a few bucks and learn something new. So that will do it for today. Hopefully this video was useful to some of you. If you liked the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.